You ever, like, get stuck on a coding problem? You spend hours just banging your head against the keyboard, wishing you had someone to, like, brainstorm with?
That's the worst.
Well, get this. Now there's AI for that. AI coding assistants. These things are wild.
Yeah, we're talking about AI that can actually help you write, analyze, even debug your code.
It's like having a super-powered coding buddy right in your computer. And this isn't just, some pie-in-the-sky idea.
Hmm.
We're diving into a report from two huge names in cybersecurity: the German Federal Office for Information Security, and the French Cybersecurity Agency.
They teamed up to unpack all this AI coding stuff. What are the benefits? What are the risks? The real deal.
So are these AI coding assistants about to revolutionize the software industry, or, like, open up a Pandora's box of new security nightmares?
Probably a little of both,
Yeah.
to be honest.
All right, well, let's start with the good stuff. How can these AI assistants actually help developers, in their day-to-day?
Imagine this. You're building an app, and you need some crazy algorithm to, like, process tons of data.
Okay, yeah.
Normally, you'd be stuck writing that yourself or, like, desperately searching online for something that kind of sort of does what you need.
Right, I've been there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But with an AI assistant, you can literally just describe what you need in plain English,
Yeah.
and boom,
Yeah.
the AI can generate the code for you.
No way. So I could be like, AI, I need an algorithm to sort a gazillion data points, go, and it'll just, like, spit out the code.
Pretty much. And it's not just about getting the job done either. The report highlighted how these AI assistants are getting really good at writing super efficient code. Like, one study found that AI-generated sorting algorithms were just as efficient as those written by experienced human developers.
Wow, okay, so this is serious stuff. But can it do more than just, crank out lines of code? What about debugging? Isn't that, like, the bane of every developer's existence?
Oh, tell me about it. There's this report from 2018 that said developers spend, get this, up to 17 hours a week just finding and squashing bugs. 17.
That's insane.
Right. So even if these AI assistants could just, like, take the edge off that workload, it'd be huge.
Totally. Freeing up developers to actually, be creative and solve bigger problems. And, like, for the rest of us, it means faster software updates, fewer glitches. It just makes everything smoother.
Exactly. Though it is important to note that the research on actual productivity gains, it's still, pretty early. We need more data to see the long-term impact on how we build software.
Makes sense. And speaking of data, this report really dives into a topic I think everyone's thinking about with AI: security.
Yeah, whenever you have a powerful new technology, especially one like AI, there are always going to be risks.
That's like the classic too good to be true thing. So what are we talking about here? What are the big security risks?
This report breaks it down into three main areas: confidentiality, something called automation bias, and then the big one, the possibility that the code generated by AI is just straight up less secure than what a human would write.
Okay, so let's unpack these risks one by one, starting with confidentiality. We all know, like, anything you put online can be, seen by almost anyone. But with these AI coding assistants, it gets a bit more complex, right?
Right. These tools are trained on massive amounts of code, and I'm talking massive. We're talking code from all over the place, including public platforms like GitHub, which means there's always that chance that sensitive information, stuff that was embedded in that training data, could be exposed.
Like, what kind of information?
We're talking about things like API keys, proprietary algorithms, heck, even just random snippets of code that might accidentally reveal how a company's internal systems work.
Oh, wow. So it's not just about what you specifically tell the AI, it's what the AI has already learned from, like, who knows where. That's kind of creepy.
It is a bit, isn't it? And it's definitely something researchers are looking into.
Yeah.
There's one study that actually managed to get a popular AI coding assistant to cough up sensitive API keys just by feeding it related code snippets. It's a good reminder that we can't just assume these AIs are, like, hardwired for confidentiality the way a human developer would be.
So bottom line, we got to be really careful about what we share with these AI assistants, especially if it's sensitive code or data.
100%. And this isn't just on individual developers either. Companies need to step up their security game big time to protect their code when using these tools.
So that means doing things like
Things like maybe using on-premise solutions, limiting access to really sensitive code repositories, even anonymizing data before it's used to train AI models.
it's like we're giving these AI assistants the keys to the kingdom, right? But with all the security measures in place.
Exactly. But it makes you think, right? When we talk about AI coding assistants, it's not just about these individual tools, it's about the whole picture, the
Okay.
entire software supply chain.
Okay, I'm listening.
Think of it like, imagine a relay race. Yeah.
Yeah.
The AI assistant is just one runner passing the baton of code onto the next. If one runner stumbles, the whole race is,
Screwed.
exactly. And we've seen what happens in the real world.
Yeah, things can go bad
Look
fast.
at those big attacks like SolarWinds that really hit the software supply chain hard. It was a mess.
Okay, so that was scary stuff. And that was without AI in the mix.
Imagine that situation, but now an attacker. They figure out how to inject some bad code into, say, an open source library that everyone uses. And then, boom, an AI system picks it up and starts spreading it around, embedding it in like thousands of applications.
That's terrifying. Okay, so how do we stop that from happening? If these AI assistants are learning from all this code that's out there, how can we be sure it's even safe to begin with?
It comes down to like knowing where things come from. It's called data provenance. Like you
Yeah.
want to know where your food comes from, right?
Yeah, like farm to table, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Same thing with code, especially if it's being used to train AI. We need to know where the data came from, how it was checked, if there are any ways to make sure nobody messed with it.
So it's about knowing the AI's like code pedigree. Did it come from a good family?
Exactly. And thankfully, there's some really cool tools popping up to help with this.
Like what kind of tool?
Think of it like AI security guards that can sniff out shady code. We're talking AI that analyzes code, looks for vulnerabilities, even stuff that might have slipped in through dodgy training data, and they can do it way faster and more thoroughly than any human could.
So it's like having like a whole army of digital detectives combing through our code for us.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
But let's say, worst case scenario, an organization thinks their AI assistant might be compromised. What then?
Hit the panic button.
Well, not quite. But you do need a plan, right? Like a fire drill, but for AI.
Okay, so walk me through this.
First, you isolate that system. You got to contain the damage. Then, figure out what's going on, how bad is it, and if you need to, you roll back to a backup you know is clean.
So speed is key here.
Absolutely. The faster you react, the less damage you have to deal with.
Huh. Makes sense. But are there like any warning signs? You know, things that might tip you off that your AI assistant's gone rogue.
Keep an eye on its behavior. If it starts acting weird, suggesting weird packages, spitting out buggy code.
Like if your usually reliable coding buddy suddenly goes off the deep end.
Yeah, exactly. Trust your gut. If something feels off, don't ignore it. Look into it. Maybe take the AI offline for a bit just to be safe.
Better safe than sorry. What about more like subtle signs, things that are harder to spot?
One thing is, look at the code itself. If it starts getting super complicated for no reason, could be a sign someone's trying to hide something bad in there.
So instead of beautiful, elegant code, it's suddenly a tangled mess.
Right. Also, keep an eye on its network activity. Is it talking to weird servers, sending out tons of data?
Like it suddenly got a secret life online?
Something like that. Look, when it comes to security, it's always better to be cautious, yeah. Investigate, talk to your security team, and don't be afraid to pull the plug if something feels wrong.
So we're talking like digital detectives, but it still feels like we're playing catch up, you know? The bad guys are always one step ahead. How do we flip the script? How do we get ahead of them in this whole AI coding game?
Well, that's where it gets really interesting. What if we could use AI to, like, fight AI?
Oh, you mean like fight fire with fire?
Exactly. We're seeing this whole new wave of counter-AI security tools, and these things are amazing. They can analyze mountains of data way more than any human could handle. We're talking code, network traffic, you name it,
Okay, so they're like super powered digital detectives.
basically. They can spot those hidden patterns, those tiny little red flags that might point to a problem, before it blows up in our faces.
That's reassuring. But even with all the fancy AI tools, at the end of the day, don't we still need like the human touch?
We absolutely do. Technology is great, but it can only take us so far. We need to make sure everyone understands the risks here and knows how to, not make it easy for the bad guys.
So it's not enough to just have like a cybersecurity team locked away somewhere.
Not a chance. Security is everyone's responsibility.
Right.
Developers need to be trained to write secure code from the get-go. And everyone in an organization should know the basics, like how to spot a phishing email or, not fall for those social engineering tricks.
Right, because the bad guys are sneaky. So we need to train our human firewalls, just like we train the AI ones.
100%. We need people to think critically, question what they see, and not just blindly trust anything, even if it looks like it came from a super smart machine.
Because let's be real, these AI assistants are amazing tools, but they're not foolproof.
Exactly. AI coding assistants have this huge potential to completely change how we build software, make it faster, more efficient, all that good stuff. But we can't get so caught up in the hype that we ignore the risks.
It's a balancing act, right? Embrace the power of AI, but also, keep our guard up.
Absolutely.
Mm.
And remember, security isn't a one-time thing. It's a constant process. You got to adapt, you got to learn, and you got to stay ahead of the bad guys.
So true. Well, I think we've given our listeners a lot to think about today.
We definitely have.
We've explored this exciting world of AI coding assistants, but also, the really important stuff, the security challenges that come with it. And look, this is just the beginning, right?
It's a wild new frontier out there.
And we'll be here to guide you through it all, every step of the way. So until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and keep on coding.
See you next time.